Act 1. The Diagnosis. My mother is forgetting me, not all at once, not dramatically. It's happening in small moments, a hesitation when I walk into her room, confusion about whether I've already visited today. A strange look when I mention my daughter's name. My name is Grace Harper. I'm 38 years old, a high school history teacher in Portland, Oregon. I have a 15-year-old daughter named Olivia who's discovering independence and testing every boundary I set. My husband, David, teaches chemistry at the same school, and we've built what I thought was a perfectly ordinary, perfectly safe life. Except my mother, Eleanor Harper, is disappearing into Alzheimer's disease. And as she forgets, I'm discovering she kept secrets that will unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. It started 6 months ago. Small things. She'd repeat questions, forget appointments, leave the stove on. My father, practical, stoic Thomas Harper, tried to cover for her. "Your mother's just tired," he'd say. "She's been under stress." But you can't hide dementia forever. Eventually, Dr. Reynolds confirmed what we already knew. Early onset Alzheimer's, progressing faster than typical cases. "How long?" I asked, my voice steady even as my hands shook. "Hard to say. Could be years, could be months. But you should have important conversations now while she still has lucid moments." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what the doctor said. Ask important questions while she can still answer them. What questions? What could possibly be so urgent that... Then I remembered. The locked drawer. When I was a child, my mother had a desk in her bedroom with a drawer that was always locked. I'd ask what was inside, and she'd smile mysteriously and say, "Just papers, sweetheart. Boring adult things." I'd forgotten about it for years, but now, lying awake at 2 a.m., I wondered, what was she hiding? The next Saturday, I drove to my parents' suburban house. Dad was at his weekly golf game. Mom was doing a crossword puzzle, one of the exercises to keep her mind active. "Hi, Mom." She looked up. That hesitation again. Then recognition. "Grace, what a lovely surprise." We talked for a while about safe things, Olivia's soccer, the neighbor's dog. All the while, I was thinking about that desk upstairs. "Mom, remember that old desk in your bedroom? The one with the locked drawer?" Her expression changed, subtle, but I saw it. Wariness. "What about it?" "You always kept it locked. I was just remembering." "Did I?" Genuine confusion now. There's a drawer, yes. I keep important things there. Can I see?" She stood slowly, movements careful, like someone navigating unfamiliar terrain. I followed her upstairs. The desk was still there. Dark wood, brass handles, that locked drawer on the bottom right. Mom stared at it, confusion clouding her eyes. Where's the key?" "You don't remember?" "I used to know. It's important. There are things you need to..." She trailed off, lost. "It's okay, we'll find it together." We searched for an hour, no key. That night, David found me in the garage, rummaging through my toolbox. "Lockpick?" I told him about the drawer, my mother's reaction, the feeling that time was running out. "So you're going to break into your mother's locked drawer?" "She wants me to see what's inside. She just can't remember where the key is." David studied me. "Want help?" The next morning, we drove to my parents' house. Dad was there, which complicated things. "Grace? David? What brings you by?" "Dad, could you help David outside? Car trouble." David played along. Once they were outside, I went upstairs. Mom was napping. I knelt at the drawer with a small screwdriver, working the old lock. After 10 minutes, I heard a click. Inside, a manila folder, a jewelry box, and letters tied with string. I pulled out the folder first. Inside were documents, legal documents, birth certificate, mine, but wrong. Name, Grace Elizabeth Morrison, not Harper. Mother, Eleanor Morrison. Father, unknown. I stared, brain refusing to process. Morrison? Unknown father? More documents. Adoption papers dated when I was 3. Thomas Harper adopting me. Eleanor Morrison becoming Eleanor Harper. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. My father wasn't my biological father. My mother had been someone else before becoming Mrs. Harper. And I'd been born to an unknown father. Footsteps on the stairs, Dad's voice. Grace, everything okay? I shoved the documents back, slammed the drawer shut. Fine, just looking for something. He studied me with his careful accountant's gaze, seeing too much. Did you find it? No, nothing important. But driving home, hands gripping the wheel too tight, I knew everything had changed. My entire life had been built on a lie. And my mother, the only person who could explain, was forgetting everything. Ached to the search. I didn't tell David right away. I made dinner, helped Olivia with homework, pretended everything was fine. But in bed that night, I finally spoke into the darkness. I'm adopted. David rolled over. What? I told him everything. The birth certificate, the adoption papers. Thomas Harper wasn't my biological father. Grace, are you sure? I know what adoption papers look like, David. I'm a history teacher. Did you ask your dad? No, I need to figure this out first. Figure what out? Everything. Olivia was harder to hide things from. The next morning at breakfast, she looked up from her phone. Mom, you're being weird. What's wrong? Nothing, honey, just work stress. She rolled her eyes. You're a terrible liar, but whatever. Can I go to Ethan's after school? Ethan? The boy with the motorcycle? He doesn't have a motorcycle. You're thinking of Jason. Ethan has a car. That's not better. Mom, she stood, grabbing her backpack. I'm 15, not 5. Can I have some freedom? We'll discuss it later. She stormed out. David touched my shoulder. She's growing up. Too fast. That afternoon, I called Mom. Want to have coffee? Just you and me? We met at her favorite cafe. She seemed alert today, only mild confusion when the barista asked about her usual order. I waited until we were seated. Mom, I need to ask about when I was little, before you married Dad. Her expression shifted, careful now. That was a long time ago. You were Eleanor Morrison then, right? Long pause. How did you know that name? I found the drawer, the documents. Her eyes filled with tears, relief, tears. Oh, thank God. I've been trying to remember where I put the key. I wanted to tell you before I lose it all. Tell me what? She gripped my hand. Your father. Your real father. His name was James. James Morrison. James Morrison? My biological father had a name. What happened to him? He died before you were born. Car accident. We weren't married. It was complicated. I was alone, pregnant, scared. And then you met Dad? Thomas, when you were 2. He was everything James wasn't. Stable, responsible. He loved you immediately. When you were 3, he asked to adopt you officially. Why didn't you ever tell me? At first you were too young. Then, time passed. Thomas was your dad in every way that mattered. We thought it would be easier if you didn't know. But you kept the papers. I couldn't throw them away. James was your father, and I thought someday, when you were older, I'd tell you. And then you got sick. She nodded, tears streaming. Now I'm forgetting. So I'm glad you found it. Mom, tell me about him. About James. While you still remember. For the next hour, she told me everything. James was a photographer, freelance, always traveling. They met at an art gallery, fell in love, fast and messy. He wasn't ready to settle down. We fought about it constantly. The night he died, we'd had a terrible argument. He was leaving for South America. I'd just told him I was pregnant. What did he say? He said he needed time to think, that he'd call from Santiago, but his car went off a bridge 3 hours outside Portland. Did he have family? A brother, William. But after James died, William blamed me. Said if I hadn't pressured James, he wouldn't have been driving upset. We haven't spoken since. Do you know where he is? Mom frowned, struggling. There was an address in the drawer, the letters. It's okay, I'll find them. But I saw her eyes glaze, the lucidity fading. I'm tired, Gracie. Can we go home? I drove her home, found Dad in the garage. Dad, can we talk? He looked up, and I saw he knew. You found the papers? Yeah. He set down his tools. I always told Eleanor we should have told you younger. You're my dad. That doesn't change. He hugged me, relief in every line. You're my daughter. Always. But I want to know about James, about that part of my history. The letters in the drawer. There was information about William Morrison. We went upstairs. The drawer was still unlocked. Inside the bundle of letters. 20, maybe 30 letters. All from James Morrison, postmarked from different cities. Love letters, beautiful, passionate, complicated. And at the bottom, one in different handwriting. Return address, William Morrison, Santa Fe, New Mexico, dated 2 months after James's death. Eleanor, I spoke harshly at the funeral. But I can't forgive you for keeping that child. She should have been raised by family. By me. If you change your mind, contact me. William, harsh words, but also an opening. I'm going to Santa Fe, I said. Dad looked concerned. Grace, that letter is 35 years old. Then I'll find out, but I have to try. What about Olivia? She can stay with you and Mom for a few days. Except Olivia had other ideas. That night, she cornered me. Where are you going? Just a work trip. Bull, you're acting weird, and now you're taking a sudden trip? What's going on? I made a decision. Come sit down. I told her everything. About James, the adoption, my search for William. Her eyes widened. So Grandpa Thomas isn't really your dad? And you have this whole secret grandfather I never knew about? Biologically, yes, but Grandpa is still my real dad. And you're just going to fly to New Mexico and track down some uncle you've never met? Yes. She stared at me. Can I come? No? Why not? This is my family too. You have school. I'll miss a few days. Mom, please. I want to know about him too. About James. I hesitated then. Okay, but you clear it with your teachers first. She threw her arms around me. Thank you. 3 days later, Olivia and I were on a plane to Santa Fe. Act 3. The Dead Ends. Santa Fe was dry, bright, painted in earth tones. I rented a car and drove to the address from William's letter. Olivia beside me scrolling through her phone. This is kind of exciting, she said. Like we're detectives. Or stalkers. The address led to an older neighborhood. Number 847 was at the end of a quiet street. I knocked. A woman in her 60s answered. Can I help you? I'm looking for William Morrison. Does he still live here? Morrison? No, we bought this house 15 years ago. From a family named Chen. My heart sank. Do you know where Mr. Morrison went? Sorry, no idea. Dead end number 1. Back in the car, Olivia looked at me. Now what? Social media? We spent 2 hours at a coffee shop searching dozens of William Morrisons. None the right age, none in New Mexico. "This is hopeless," Olivia said. "No, we just need to be smarter." I called Dad. "Do you remember anything else about William? Where he worked? Anything?" Eleanor mentioned he was in the art world, like James. Maybe gallery work? Art world. Santa Fe had dozens of galleries. We spent the next day visiting them, showing James's name, asking about William Morrison. Most people had never heard of either. Until the 7th Gallery. A small place downtown, contemporary photography. The owner, a woman in her 50s, studied me when I mentioned James Morrison. "James Morrison, the photographer? His work just sold at Sotheby's for 6 figures. "Wait, what? You didn't know? He's having a retrospective at the Modern next month. His brother's been curating his legacy for years." "His brother? William?" "Yeah, William Morrison. But you won't find him at a gallery anymore. He's been struggling, had some issues with alcohol. Last I heard, he was in a halfway house on the south side." She gave me an address. Olivia and I drove there in silence. The halfway house was a converted motel. Institutional. Sad. The manager checked her records. "William Morrison, yeah. He left 2 months ago. Didn't leave a forwarding address." "Do you know where he went?" She hesitated. "Look, I'm not supposed to, but he mentioned getting a place near Canyon Road. Trying to start over. Check the apartment listings there." Dead end number 2. That night, in our hotel room, Olivia found me crying in the bathroom. "Mom? I'm sorry. I dragged you out here for nothing." She sat beside me on the floor. "We'll find him. We didn't come this far to quit." I looked at my daughter, this fierce, determined girl, and felt a surge of gratitude. "You're right. Tomorrow, we hire a private investigator." The PI cost $500 I didn't really have, but within 12 hours, he had an address, a small apartment on Canyon Road. "Fair warning," he said. "Your uncle's had a rough time, bankruptcy, rehab twice. He might not be receptive." "I understand." The next afternoon, Olivia waited in the car while I climbed the stairs to apartment 3B. Knocked. Footsteps. The door opened. A man in his 70s, weathered skin, gray hair pulled back in a ponytail, paint-stained jeans. His eyes, my eyes, James's eyes. "Can I help you?" "Are you William Morrison?" "Depends who's asking." I took a breath. "My name is Grace Harper. I'm James Morrison's daughter." He stared for a long moment. Then his face hardened. "You're 38 years late. What do you want?" Not the reception I'd hoped for. "I want to know about my father. My mother has Alzheimer's. She's forgetting everything. I need to understand where I came from before it's too late." "And you think I owe you that? After Eleanor kept you from me all these years?" She didn't. She did. I offered to help raise you, to be part of your life. She ignored every letter, every call. So forgive me if I'm not rolling out the welcome mat. I didn't know any of this. I just found out I was adopted a week ago." He laughed bitterly. "A week? Jesus! And now you show up, expecting me to fill in the blanks?" "I'm not expecting anything, I'm asking, please." The answer's no. I spent too many years mourning James, trying to preserve his legacy while his daughter grew up, not even knowing his name. "I'm done. Go home, Grace." He closed the door in my face. I stood there, stunned. Then walked back to the car. "How did it go?" Olivia asked. "It didn't." We drove back to the hotel in silence. That night, I lay awake, feeling like a failure. At 7 a.m., Olivia shook me awake. "Mom, I have an idea." "What?" "We need to show him we care. about James, about his art. There's a photography store downtown. Let's buy some of James's prints. I found them online last night, and we bring them to Uncle William. Show him we're serious. Olivia, I don't think... Just trust me. An hour later, we stood outside William's apartment again. This time, I held a portfolio of James Morrison prints I'd purchased online years ago. I'd had them the whole time, but forgotten. Also, in my hands, the photo of my mother, pregnant, that I'd taken from the drawer. I knocked. William opened the door, already angry. I told you. I know, but please, just look. I held up the photo. Eleanor, young and radiant, carrying me. William's anger crumbled. He stared at the photo, hand trembling as he took it. I haven't seen this in decades. James took this 3 days before he died. I know. My mother kept it all these years, along with his letters, his journals. She never forgot him. She was scared, alone. She made the best choices she could. He looked at me. Really looked. You have his eyes. So do you. Come in. Act 4. The Revelation. William's apartment was small but filled with James's photographs. Walls covered in black and white images, stunning landscapes, portraits, moments frozen in time. I've been curating his legacy for 30 years, William said, gesturing around. Museums, galleries, collectors. Your father was brilliant. Olivia wandered the room, studying each photo. These are incredible. He had an eye for finding beauty in ordinary moments. We sat in his living room, and I told him everything: Mom's diagnosis, discovering the truth, my need to understand. He listened. Then, I'm sorry about Eleanor. Alzheimer's is cruel, and I'm sorry for what I said yesterday. I was angry at the wrong person. You said she kept me from you. I wanted to raise you. After James died, I thought I could give you his legacy, his artistic world. But Eleanor refused, and I didn't handle it well. I blamed her for his death, for keeping you away. I spent years drunk and bitter. Why did you blame her? William was quiet then. The night James died, he called me. Said he and Eleanor had fought, that she'd given him an ultimatum, come back permanently or let her go. He was driving to the airport, furious and confused, and I thought, if she hadn't pressured him, hadn't forced that choice, he'd still be alive. But accidents happen. It wasn't her fault. I know that now, but grief makes you cruel. He pulled out a box. I have everything. His journals, negatives, letters. It was always meant to be yours. We spent hours going through it. James's journals were full of doubts, observations, self-deprecating humor. His letters to Eleanor were passionate and complicated. He loved her desperately, but couldn't stop running. Then I found it. A letter in Eleanor's handwriting, tucked into one of James's journals. Unsealed, unsent. I opened it, hands shaking. Dear James, I need to tell you something. I lied. I'm not pregnant. I made it up because I was desperate to make you stay. I love you so much it's killing me. And I thought if you believed we had a child together, you'd choose us. But I can't live with this lie. When you come back, I'll tell you the truth. If you leave after that, I'll understand. But I need you to stay because you want me, not because you feel trapped. If you can forgive me, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Eleanor dated the day before James's death. I stared at it, world tilting. My mother had lied about being pregnant, planned to confess. And then James died. And then? Grace, what is it? Olivia asked. I showed William the letter. He read it, face pale. I didn't know about this. My mother lied. She faked a pregnancy to manipulate him. But then, how? William looked at me. You exist. She must have found out she was actually pregnant after he died. The lie became true. We sat in stunned silence. Finally, William spoke. James called me that night. From a rest stop, 2 hours into his drive. He told me Eleanor had confessed about the pregnancy being fake. My heart stopped. He knew? Yes. She'd told him on the phone before he left. And you know what he said to me? What? He said, Will, I'm coming back anyway. Not because of a baby that doesn't exist, but because I realized something tonight. I love her enough that the lie doesn't matter. She was desperate enough to lie because she loves me that much. And maybe that's what I've been running from all along. Being loved that completely. Tears streamed down my face. He was coming back. He was coming back, not out of obligation, out of choice. But then he died. And your mother found out weeks later that she was actually pregnant. The lie she'd confessed, that had almost ruined everything, turned out to be true. Can you imagine that guilt? That cosmic joke? I thought about my mother, alone and pregnant, grieving a man who'd died thinking she'd lied, not knowing she was actually carrying his child. She never told anyone. She couldn't. It would sound insane, and maybe she thought it was punishment, carrying the guilt of the lie even though it became truth. Olivia, who'd been quiet, spoke up. So Grandma Eleanor lied to make James stay, but James was coming back anyway. And then she really was pregnant, but he was already dead. That's tragic, I finished. It's tragic. William went to a filing cabinet, pulled out more papers. There's something else. James left a will, named me executor, left everything to Eleanor and any children he might have. His photography, his equipment, the rights to his work. I've been managing it for decades. The retrospective next month, the Sotheby's sales. That money was always meant to be yours. I don't want money. It's not about money. It's about legacy. James wanted you to have his art, to know him through his work. He handed me a folder. Inside, financial statements. Accounts in my name holding decades of accumulated royalties. There's over $2 million here, William said. From print sales, licensing, exhibitions. Your father's work has been supporting you without you even knowing. I stared at the numbers, overwhelmed. And there's more. The retrospective at the modern. I want you to be part of it. To tell Eleanor's story alongside James's. To show that their love, despite everything, created something beautiful. You. Olivia hugged me. Mom, this is huge. That evening, back at the hotel, I called David. Grace, are you okay? You sound shaken. I told him everything. The lie, the truth, the money, James coming back. So your mother? My mother was human, flawed, desperate. And the universe played the cruelest joke on her. What are you going to tell your dad, Thomas? I don't know. Does he deserve to know Eleanor lied? Or should I protect her memory? Grace, secrets are what got you into this mess. Maybe honesty is the way out. He was right, but I didn't know if I had the courage. Act 5, the confrontation. We flew home 2 days later. I'd promised William we'd come back for the retrospective. He'd given us 3 boxes of James's belongings, journals, photographs, personal effects. But the flight home was tense. Olivia sat beside me, headphones in, pointedly ignoring me. Something had shifted. Olivia, what's wrong? She pulled out one earbud. Nothing. That's not nothing. Talk to me. You want honesty? Fine. While you were bonding with Uncle William, I went through some of James's stuff. found his journals, read about how Grandma Eleanor manipulated him, lied to him, gave him ultimatums, and you're acting like she's some tragic heroine. It's complicated. No, Mom, it's not. She lied, she manipulated, and yeah, it worked out because she actually got pregnant. But that doesn't make it okay. And now you're keeping this secret from Grandpa Thomas? More lies. When does it end? She was right, and I hated it. When we got home, David was waiting. One look at my face, and he knew. That bad? Worse, I need to talk to Dad. I went to my parents' house the next morning. Mom was at the memory care facility for the day. Dad was in his study, going through old financial records. Grace, how was the trip? Complicated. I sat down. Dad, I need to tell you something about Mom, about James. I told him everything. The fake pregnancy, the confession, James's decision to come back anyway, the cosmic irony of her becoming actually pregnant after his death. Dad listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Did you know? I asked. Any of it? I knew Eleanor had complicated feelings about James, that she felt guilty about his death, but I didn't know about the lie. Are you angry? He considered. Sad, maybe, for what she carried alone all those years. But angry? No. Grace, everyone has a past. Everyone has made desperate choices. Eleanor was human, flawed, and she spent 40 years being the best wife and mother she could be. That's what matters. But she manipulated him. She was 25, terrified, and in love with a man who kept leaving. Yes, lying was wrong, but James chose to come back knowing the truth. He forgave her. So do I. I felt something loosen in my chest. I love you, Dad. I know. And Grace? There's something I should tell you too, about my past. He pulled out a box from his desk. Inside, letters, old ones. Before I met your mother, I was engaged. Her name was Catherine. We were supposed to get married. A month before the wedding, she left me for my best friend. Dad, I'm so sorry. I was devastated, broken. When I met Eleanor a year later, I was still healing. We understood each other. We'd both lost people we loved. We'd both been betrayed by circumstances. That's why we worked. We chose each other knowing we were both damaged. And we built something beautiful anyway. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to stay despite the flaws. Your mother wasn't perfect. James wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect. But we loved you the best we could. That conversation stayed with me. But Olivia was still distant. She spent more time at friends' houses, less time at home. When I tried to talk to her about it, she shut down. I just need space, Mom, to process everything. A week later, I discovered she'd stolen one of James's photographs from the boxes William had given us. A rare print worth thousands. Olivia, why did you take this? Because it's part of my history, too. You don't get to control everything. I'm not controlling. You are. You found out about this big family secret, and now you're obsessed with some dead guy who abandoned his pregnant girlfriend. Meanwhile, Grandpa Thomas, the man who actually raised you, is just... What? Chopped liver? That's not fair. Isn't it? You spent a week in Santa Fe getting to know Uncle William, learning about James's art, crying over old letters. When's the last time you spent quality time with the grandpa who's actually been there your whole life? She was right. Again, I'd been so focused on discovering James that I'd neglected to appreciate Thomas. I'll fix it, I said. How? I don't know yet, but I will. 2 weeks later, I proposed something to William over the phone. What if we brought Mom to Santa Fe? To see the retrospective before she forgets James completely? Is she well enough to travel? Dad and I will come with her. It might be our last chance to give her closure. Then yes, absolutely. 3 days later, Dad, Mom, and I were on a plane to Santa Fe. Mom had a good morning. She recognized all of us, asked coherent questions about where we were going. We're going to see James's photographs, Mom. There's an exhibition. Her eyes widened. James? My James? Yes. But he died, didn't he? He did, but his art lives on. The desert air seemed to revive something in her. When we landed, she looked around with recognition. I've been here before, with James. You remember? Pieces, like fragments of a dream. William met us at the hotel. Mom stared at him, confusion giving way to something like recognition. Will? Little Will? He smiled through tears. Not so little anymore, Eleanor. They hugged, decades of silence dissolving. That evening, we went to the museum. William had arranged private access. Just the four of us and the curator. We walked slowly through the exhibition. Mom stopped at each photograph. Sometimes she'd remember the story. Sometimes she'd just stare, absorbing. Until we reached the centerpiece, the portrait of Eleanor, pregnant, laughing. Mom froze, stared at herself, young and full of hope. I remember this, she whispered. He came back, said he wanted to try, to be there. I was so happy. She turned to me, lucid in a way she hadn't been in months. I need to tell you something, Grace, while I can still remember. What, Mom? I lied to him about being pregnant. I was desperate. I thought if he believed we had a child, he'd stay. But I couldn't live with it. I was going to tell him the truth. I know, Mom. I found your letter. Then you know what a coward I was. What a manipulator. I know you were human. And I know James forgave you. He was coming back anyway. She looked at Dad, standing quietly beside her. Thomas, you knew about the lie? Grace told me. And you're not angry? Eleanor, I married you knowing you'd always love James. A 40-year-old lie doesn't change 40 years of love. She leaned into him, crying. Thank you for everything, for being the man James couldn't be. We spent 2 more days in Santa Fe. Mom had moments of clarity, moments of confusion. But there was peace, like she was saying goodbye to James, to that version of herself, to the guilt she'd carried. On our last night, William gave Mom a gift, a small album filled with James's photographs, including the portrait of pregnant Eleanor. So you can remember, he said, even when remembering gets hard. Flying home, Mom fell asleep, holding the album. Dad held her hand. I watched them, thinking about the strange architecture of love. How one woman could love 2 men completely. How one man could raise another man's child as his own. When we got home, Olivia was waiting. She hugged me tight. I'm sorry, Mom, for being a brat, for not understanding. You had every right to be upset. No, I was jealous of James, of this big romantic story. But then I realized we have our own story, you and me and Dad and Grandpa. That's worth something too. It's worth everything. Aishwa 6, The Inheritance. Mom moved to full-time memory care 3 months after Santa Fe. She'd have days where she didn't recognize anyone, where she thought she was 25 and looking for James. But she kept the album. Even on her worst days, she'd hold it and smile. I loved him, she'd say, not remembering who him was. I know, Mom, and he loved you. Mom died on a Tuesday morning in April, 6 months after our trip. Quietly, surrounded by family. Dad was holding her hand. I was reading her one of James's letters. Olivia was playing Vivaldi on her phone. Mom opened her eyes once, looked at each of us, and smiled, then closed them for the last time. The funeral was small. Dad's family, our family, a few old friends, and William, who flew in from Santa Fe. At the reception, something unexpected happened. A woman approached Dad, mid-60s, expensive clothes, nervous smile. "Thomas, it's Catherine." Dad went rigid. The woman who'd left him at the altar 40 years ago. "Catherine, I'm surprised to see you. I heard about Eleanor. I'm so sorry. I wanted to pay my respects. And I wanted to say I was wrong. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life." I watched, transfixed. This was the woman from Dad's old letters. Dad looked at her for a long moment, then gently. "Catherine, I mourned you for a year. Then I moved on. Eleanor gave me the life you couldn't, a family, a daughter, 40 years of real partnership. I have no regrets. But surely now that she's gone, I miss her every day. I'm sorry you have regrets, but I don't. Goodbye, Catherine." He walked away, leaving her standing there. I followed him outside. "Dad, I'm fine. Actually, I'm better than fine. I just realized something. I chose the right person. Eleanor and I chose each other every day for 40 years. That woman," he nodded toward the reception hall. "She chose someone else. Those are very different things." That night, William gave me James's complete archives. "The retrospective made $500,000. It's yours. Use it however you want. But I have a suggestion." "What?" "Create a foundation in Eleanor and James's names to support young photographers, people struggling with Alzheimer's research, families dealing with complicated grief. Make something good from all this pain." It was perfect, but the weeks after Mom's death were harder than I'd expected. I thought I'd be sad. I didn't expect to be angry. Angry at Mom for keeping secrets, at James for dying, at Dad for being so accepting of everything, at myself for not asking questions sooner. David found me crying in the garage one night, a month after the funeral. "Grace, you need to talk to someone, a therapist." "I'm fine." "You're not, you're drowning." He was right. I started therapy, learned about complicated grief, about how you can mourn someone and be angry at them simultaneously. Olivia struggled too. Her grades dropped. She started dating that boy with the car, Ethan, and stayed out past curfew. "I'm processing," she'd say when I'd confront her. "By failing chemistry?" "Not everyone can be perfect like you, Mom." That hurt, because I was far from perfect. 3 months after Mom's death, I visited Dad. Found him sitting in the dark, Eleanor's clothes still in the closet. "Dad, are you okay?" "I don't know how to do this without her, Gracie. 40 years. She was my entire adult life." "I know." And the silence. The house is so quiet. "Move in with us, for a while." He did, and slowly, very slowly, we all started healing. William called weekly. Sometimes he'd relapse, miss a call because he was drinking, but he'd check himself back into rehab and try again. "I'm working on it," he'd say. "For James, for you, for the family I almost lost." 6 months after Mom's death, the foundation was official. The Eleanor and James Morrison Foundation for Art and Memory. William organized a major exhibition, James and Eleanor, a love story in photographs. James's photos of Eleanor interspersed with family photos. A timeline of their love, his death, her moving forward, her life with Dad. At the opening, I gave a speech. Olivia stood beside me, having taken her own photographs for the exhibition, portraits of our family in grief and healing. My father died before I was born, I began. My mother kept him secret for 38 years. When I finally learned the truth, I was angry, hurt, confused. But here's what I've learned over this painful year. Families are messy. Love is complicated. People make desperate choices out of fear and hope and sometimes manipulation. My mother lied to the man she loved. He forgave her and chose to come back anyway. My dad chose to raise another man's child as his own. Uncle William chose to preserve a brother's legacy while battling his own demons. And I'm choosing to honor all of it. The good, the bad, the complicated. This exhibition isn't just about James Morrison's art. It's about Eleanor's courage, Thomas's choice, William's dedication, and Olivia's generation learning from all our mistakes. Healing isn't linear. Some days I'm angry at my mother. Some days I'm grateful. Some days I'm both. And that's okay because families aren't about perfection. They're about showing up, trying, forgiving, and loving even when it's hard. After the speech, Dad hugged me. Your mother would be proud. Would she? I told the truth about her lies. She'd want you to. Truth is the only way to heal. Olivia surprised everyone by winning a National Photography Award for her series Inheritance. Portraits of our family holding objects that mattered. Dad with Eleanor's wedding ring. Me with James's camera. William with his brother's journals. Her with the album Eleanor had held at the end. That night, at our celebration dinner, Olivia made an announcement. I'm applying to art school, photography program. I want to carry on what Grandpa James started. I looked at my daughter, fierce, talented, carrying a legacy she'd only just discovered, and felt proud. Later, driving home, David asked, "Do you have regrets about discovering all this?" Sometimes. Ignorance was easier, but knowing gives me context for who I am. Why Mom made the choices she did. What Dad chose to overlook out of love. And James? Do you wish he'd lived? I thought about that honestly. I wish I'd known him, but I wouldn't trade the father I had for the one I never met. Dad showed up every day. That counts for more than biology. A year after Mom's death, I went through one final box of her things. At the bottom, I found a letter, addressed to me in Eleanor's careful handwriting, dated 3 months before she died, during one of her last lucid days. My dearest Grace, by the time you read this, I'll probably be gone. Or at least, the version of me that remembers writing this will be gone. I'm sorry I kept James from you. I was protecting myself, not you. I was afraid if you knew the truth about the lie, the manipulation, how flawed I was, you'd love me less. But you deserve to know, James was a good man, restless, complicated, scared of commitment, but good. He would have loved you fiercely if he'd lived. He chose to come back not out of obligation, but out of love. That matters. Thomas is a great man. The best. He knew I'd never stop loving James and loved me anyway. He raised you as his own without ever making you feel like you weren't. That's the truest kind of love. I've had a good life. Not the one I planned, but whose is. I got to raise you. I got 40 years with Thomas. I got to love 2 extraordinary men, even if one of them I lost too soon. My only regret is the secrets. They helped no one. So I'm leaving you everything, the letters, the truth, the mess. Do with it what you will. Create something beautiful from all this pain. You are my greatest achievement, Grace. Not because of James's genes or Thomas's raising, but because of the person you chose to become. Kind, strong, questioning, forgiving. Remember us. All of us. The good and the bad. But most of all, remember that love, messy, complicated, imperfect love, is worth every second of the pain. All my love, always, Mom. I cried reading it, showed it to Dad, to Olivia, to William, to David. We all cried, and then we decided we'd publish it. As the epilogue to the exhibition catalog, Eleanor's own words, her truth, her legacy. 2 years after Mom's death, I stood in the Foundation's new office space, surrounded by photographs and memories. The Foundation funded 10 young photographers that year, donated $100,000 to Alzheimer's research, helped 20 families dealing with grief and secrets. Olivia was thriving in art school. Dad was volunteering at the memory care center where Mom had lived, helping other families navigate the awful journey. William had been sober for 18 months and was planning a documentary about James and Eleanor. And me? I was learning to live with complicated truths. That my mother was both a manipulator and a devoted parent. That my biological father would have been a good dad if he'd lived. That my real father was the man who showed up every day for 38 years. That families are built not on biology or perfection, but on choice, forgiveness, and showing up, even when it's hard. Some inheritances are money. Some are secrets. Some are the painful, beautiful work of loving imperfect people and being loved by them in return. Mom left me all three, and I'm grateful for everyone.